The house is not on fire. We're in great position. It's not hard to fix. It's not like we're like, hey, we don't have enough talent to win a championship. We have enough talent to win a championship.
The Suns have fired head coach Mike Budenholzer after just one season.
The Phoenix Suns have begun cleaning house, with Kevin Durant saying that he is respectfully okay with getting traded by the Phoenix Suns, and the Suns firing their third head coach in 3 years. The Suns have the highest payroll in the NBA, and everything seems to be a disaster. It doesn't seem like there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but there are some options for the Phoenix Suns that exist that could get them out of the hole that they're in. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to get the latest NBA news to your device. We've been on a crazy daily upload spree, and now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Weekend 1 of Coachella just concluded, so I really want to go to weekend 2. On top of that, the Los Angeles Lakers are facing off against the Minnesota Timberwolves in the first round of the playoffs. And there's no better app to get yourself these tickets than SeatGeek. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. I personally love SeatGeek because they'll rank each and every ticket that you want to buy and tell you whether or not you're getting a good deal. If you're thinking of going to any of the playoff games or even a Coachella weekend 2 to meet up with your boy, I came through for you guys. Use my promo code FlightMike10 to get 10% off of your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's promo code FlightMike10 to get 10% off of your next tickets from SeatGeek. And thank you, SeatGeek, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The Mat Ishbia era started off with a bang, gutting out the entire depth of their roster, trading Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, and 4 unprotected future first-round picks to the Brooklyn Nets so they could get Kevin Durant. I don't think Brooklyn Nets fans understand how set they are for the next decade. I mean, sure, the Nets went 26-56 and missed the playoffs, but they have 4 unprotected draft picks from the Phoenix Suns. And it doesn't look like this team is sniffing contention. As a matter of fact, they're at the opposite end of the spectrum. And honestly, if Mat Ishbia left the team the way it was at this point, then I would say it's not that bad of a trade. Maybe bring in a head coach that could get along with DeAndre Ayton and actually coach him to his fullest potential, which is a pretty tall task at that, and try to run it back with the existing core that made it to the 2021 NBA Finals to begin with. I mean, you had so many options here, but it seems like the Phoenix Suns did the worst option, trading for quite possibly the worst contract in sports. Losing Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, and the rest of their draft picks for the decade, I mean, including pick swaps in order to get Bradley Beal that had a no trade clause. They decided to fire Monty Williams following that, which some fans thought was warranted. Even though I thought it was unfortunate that Monty Williams never got a full season with Kevin Durant. They brought in Frank Vogel, who won the 2020 NBA championship with the Los Angeles Lakers, and they decided to run it back. And you would think they would do a little bit better now that they had Bradley Beal. The big question was who was going to play point guard on this team. But the Suns would go from first place in the 2021-22 season, where they would lose in the Western Conference semifinals, to fourth in the 2022-23 season when Mat Ishbia took over in the middle of the season and they traded for Kevin Durant at the deadline, to 6th in the 2023-24 season, which was the first season of the Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant Big Three, which was a season that resulted in them getting swept in the first round, to even worse this past year. In the offseason, Mat Ishbia went viral for saying this.
Ask the other 29 GMs. 26 of them would trade their whole team for our whole team and our draft picks and everything as is. Like, the house is not on fire. We're in great position.
And Suns PR did everything that they possibly could do to once again convince their fans that this was the right move. I mean, take a look at this video of Bradley Beal brushing off Frank Vogel's hand. Look at Kevin Durant telling the world that he's never been swept a day of his life.
I've never been swept a day in my life, so I'll be damned if that happens.
And even Kevin Durant vowed that he would be better next year.
Yeah, I won't provide context, but whenever I provide context, it'll be looked at as an excuse, so I'll just be better next year.
But that's not all that they would do. There's this scathing article posted on The Athletic that explains how terrible Frank Vogel truly was. Do you guys remember this? The Phoenix Suns had fallen into a 35-4 hole en route to a loss to the Clippers on April 9th. The head coach yelled so much that his voice could be heard outside the locker locker room. There was only one problem. On this night, Suns players weren't buying it. The outburst seemed forced and out of character in their eyes. It continued at the next day's shoot-around in Los Angeles, Vogel tearing into the Suns before that night's road win over the Clippers. Vogel's eruption left players rolling their eyes. One player even told The Athletic he had to keep from laughing. The Phoenix Suns improved defensively, but they failed to stay connected. They will look great one night and disinterested in the next night. But like this article would say, the Phoenix Suns' issues were never coaching. They lacked two fundamental issues, a pure point guard and a defensive stopper on the wing or at the center. And the fact that they wanted to have Bradley Beal to be a player that could bring the ball up and create things off the dribble and in pick and roll situations. Now, to Phoenix's credit, they actually tried to address all of these issues in the offseason with what limited cap space that they had. They tried to bring in Tyus Jones, who is a very good backup point guard and has helped every team that he's been on, and decided to give him the opportunity to start. On paper, it seemed like a brilliant idea. Bring in an overperforming point guard on a cheap contract, pair him with Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker, and bring in a winning head coach that's more offensive minded than your previous coach. And well, 1 year later, we got a scathing article about why Mike Budenholzer didn't work out in Phoenix once again. So I really wonder what the excuse here is this time. The article brings up that the fate of President of Basketball Operations James Jones is not yet known, but his contract expires at the end of June, and Ishbia is widely expected to consider new candidates for the role. James Jones has been with the Suns since 2017 and has held the lead role in the front office since 2019, though league and team sources say Ishbia and CEO Josh Bartelstein assumed far more prominent roles in trade negotiations and team operations this season. It remains unclear if Bartelstein's role will change. I just wanted to say that you don't have to be a genius to know that James Jones isn't at fault here. It's kind of like one of those things where you could clearly tell that's not James Jones that wants to make these decisions. It's ownership pushing him to make these decisions, and he has no choice but to make these decisions, because just take a look at James Jones's track record as the general manager of the Phoenix Suns. He's made very intelligent decisions prior to the Ishbia era. I mean, I guess except drafting DeAndre Ayton over Luka Doncic, but I don't even blame him for drafting DeAndre Ayton over Luka Doncic, because at that time, DeAndre Ayton was considered to be the safe #1 overall pick. Luka was seen as somewhat of a risk, and when you take a look at the Phoenix Suns' track record drafting, it's very obvious why he decided to go for DeAndre Ayton. I mean, in 2016, this team drafted another foreign player, Dragon Bender, that clearly didn't work out. 2017, they drafted another bust in Josh Jackson. So I could understand going into 2018, you want to take the safer prospect over Luka Doncic, who at the time some people thought would have been a risk. I'm not really going to hold that against him. But even in that very draft, they traded for Mikal Bridges. In 2019, they traded the draft rights to Jared Culver in order to get Cam Johnson. In 2020, they drafted Jalen Smith. I mean, this team really knew what they were doing. Following the Phoenix Suns' brief stretch of dominance prior to the playoffs in the bubble when they went undefeated, James Jones decided to make another savvy move, trading for Chris Paul, and he continued to build his team organically. So you're telling me that this individual that was 100% focused on drafting and developing players, on not overpaying for veteran players that fit into his team seamlessly, all of a sudden decided to gut out all of his depth for the future for Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, even though Bradley Beal didn't fit into this team? You're telling me that he all of a sudden decided to fire the head coach that got him to the NBA Finals and consistently bring in a head coach year after year after year? This is clearly an ownership issue. It's not James Jones's fault. It's kind of similar to what's happening with Nico Harrison. You're telling me Nico Harrison had an offseason where he was pursuing Klay Thompson, Spencer Dinwiddie, traded for PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford the year prior, built this perfect team around Luka Doncic, and all of a sudden, less than a year after making it to the NBA Finals, he traded Luka Doncic? It's very clear what's coming from ownership and what's stuff that general managers actually want to do. But the GM has to be the fall guy at the end of the day. Now, this article also blames Coach Bud's firing on his contentious relationship with four-time All-Star and franchise centerpiece Devin Booker, as well as several other key players, which was seen internally as a major issue. The Suns, which are widely expected to trade Kevin Durant this summer, are still planning on building around the 28-year-old Devin Booker and didn't see a productive path forward with Budenholzer at the helm. The article by Fred Katz, Doug Haller, and Sam Amick continues to say that there's blame to go around. The top-heavy roster Budenholzer inherited, built around stars as Booker, Durant, and Bradley Beal lack defensive discipline and toughness. The Phoenix Suns finished 27th in points allowed per possession. They struggle to keep up with young athletic teams and were often overmatched against physical and aggressive ones, with Phoenix above the second tax apron, a salary threshold that limits what types of trades and signings high-spending teams can make. The Suns made minor moves at February's deadline, but were otherwise locked into a roster with flaws that they could not fix or overcome. Scrunched flexibility did not stop the Suns from attempting big swings, one that did not make the locker room any more comfortable. Leading into the deadline, they chased after six-time All-Star Jimmy Butler to no avail. Phoenix placed Beal, who has a no-trade clause on the block, but they could not find him a suitable new home. They discussed Durant with other teams, most notably Golden State and Minnesota, then held on to him, a process that rubbed Durant the wrong way. This is like a handbook on how to not run a team. I mean, you're dangling players in trade talks, you're exceeding the second luxury tax apron, you're gutting out all of your assets for the next 6 years, and you have no depth. And it's just disastrous. I think Mat Ishbia might be the worst NBA owner since Ted Stepien, at least in terms of roster construction, not in terms of like heinous stuff he might be doing off of the court. But this article keeps going into the drama. There was drama before the season. Coach Bud had traveled to Croatia to meet Jusuf Nurkic, a relationship building move that impressed the veteran center. Nurkic slimmed down and worked on his three-point shot to fit better within Budenholzer's offensive system. But after a rough start, Budenholzer benched Nurkic and removed him from the rotation. Nurk told reporters that Budenholzer never shared with him the reasons behind the moves and that the relationship he and Bud once had gone. The Suns later traded Nurk to Charlotte. In February, Chris B. Haynes reported that Budenholzer called Devin Booker into an office and told the star guard he was being too vocal on the court and during timeouts. The coach asked Booker to tone it down, which Booker found shocking, a league source told The Athletic. Budenholzer and Booker downplayed the report and said their relationship was solid, but neither denied the meeting taking place. The article then brings up when Kevin Durant yanked his arm away when the Phoenix Suns were facing off against the Los Angeles Clippers, which at the time Kevin Durant said this.
Yeah, that's what usually happens when you don't know the dynamics of a relationship. We competitive as two individuals who want to see things done the right way. Sometimes my way ain't the way that Bud want to do it, and vice versa. If we both didn't care, we would never have stuff like that.
Then the article also blames the fans, saying that as losses mounted, fans grew tired of Bud's bland post-game comments that often began with crediting the opponent and ended with, "We gotta be better." They were not alone. After a home February loss in New Orleans, Booker pinpointed the team's struggles on skipping details and taking a get 'em next time mentality. At some point, you gotta draw a line, and it should have been drawn a long time ago. But it's really hard to take articles like this seriously when it's clear that coaching isn't the issue in Phoenix. There's much deeper issues than coaching for the Phoenix Suns. The roster doesn't work, the team has no assets, they've exceeded the second apron, they're allocating a significant amount of money to a big three that just can't play together, and they're trying to point the blame finger at other aspects of the roster. Fans were saying that injuries were the issue, but this was the healthiest season that the Suns' big three have ever had. So clearly that wasn't the problem, so they decided to blame coaching once again and bring in the man that ironically won the NBA championship after Frank Vogel did in 2020 and Mike Budenholzer. Now, whenever a head coach is consistently getting fired year after year with the same big three, that's a clear indication that coaching is not the issue here. The construction of your roster might be an issue, and it doesn't take a basketball wizard to understand the issue with the Phoenix Suns. It's a very similar issue to what the Los Angeles Lakers had in the Russell Westbrook era. You're allocating too much money to a big three that doesn't work together, especially when you take a look at Bradley Beal. Compare the Phoenix Suns that are out of playoff contention to the third-seeded Los Angeles Lakers. Bradley Beal's averaging 17 points per game off of 3.7 assists and 3.3 rebounds. He is making $50 million this year. Austin Reeves is averaging 20.2 points per game, 5.8 assists per game, and 4.5 rebounds, and is getting paid an astonishing $13.4 million a year. I always said that the Los Angeles Lakers signing of Austin Reeves is the equivalent to what the Dallas Mavericks would have gotten in Jalen Brunson if they were able to re-sign him the first time. And the worst part of all is Bradley Beal is under contract until the conclusion of the 2027 season, and he has a player option at the conclusion of the 2027 season that I really don't see him opting out of because he is playing the worst basketball of his career currently. His contract also has a no trade clause, so the situation that the Suns want to trade him to better be a good one, because otherwise he could reject any trade and just stay in Phoenix. Which means the only option that the Suns might have here is pulling off a historic buyout for a player on a max contract with multiple years remaining if they can't find a trade, because Bradley Beal has the right to hold the Suns hostage. I mean, it's just insane when you just take a look at some of the allocation of this money. I mean, KD, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal combined are making $150.5 million this year. The entire Detroit Pistons roster is at $140 million. But of course, whenever things don't work out, it's easy to scapegoat the head coach, so the Phoenix Suns decided to fire Coach Bud. I don't think Coach Bud is necessarily upset about this, primarily because he's getting paid to do nothing. But if you just listen to all of the Phoenix Suns players, it seems like they know that the writing's on the wall for this entire team. I mean, listen to Devin Booker talk about this season.
Obviously an ugly year, so unpredictable day to day what was going to happen. And it's just been a joy, from my favorite player to teammate. I don't take it lightly, our relationship on and off the court.
A fan straight up told Kevin Durant that we don't want you off the team, but we don't have many other options. We can't just run it back and you'll get us the best return, respectfully. KD even said respectfully. And that's honestly the truth. The Phoenix Suns are headed down a dreaded path where they might not be relevant until the early 2030s. They're going to consistently perform terribly, and they don't have any assets even if they are tanking. They're going to make the Brooklyn Nets and Washington Wizards really good really quickly. And when you just take a look at Kevin Durant's effect on the team, it's absolutely insane. The man was one of the most efficient scorers in the NBA, getting around 24 possessions per game and averaging about 1.12 points per possession. Kevin Durant's team is 2-18 without him, and they're 33-28 with him. And he's doing this all at the age of 36 with one of the worst supporting casts. So now fans are wondering, what is the future going to look like for Kevin Durant? Some fans are linking Kevin Durant to New York.
That I wanted you to go to the Knicks, bro. Please.
You definitely did. I was just like, dog, come to the car. Like my dad, you love the Knicks.
Oh yeah, your dad was with me. Heavy.
My aunt love the Knicks.
And some fans are even saying that Nico Harrison could buy himself some good grace if he's able to get Kevin Durant to Dallas.
It's a way for the Dallas to make this right. Soon as the season is over, you go out and you go get Kevin Durant. That's how you make it right if you're Nico Harris in the front office of the Mavs organization.
Now, personally, I'd love to dive into Kevin Durant's future on this video, but that's actually the very last video we uploaded. I'll leave a link to it in the end screen, and I'll meet you guys over there. And aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.